Energy Policy Manager from the International Energy Hydropower Association, and Patricia Santamaria is the Chief Innovation Officer, RPOW Consultant. Unfortunately, today, Rajat Verma from Lohum has not been able finally to be with us, so we have we'll have the presentations from Rebecca and Patricia. Yesterday we heard from Alex Campbell presenting a proposal on a learning module on long-duration energy storage solutions. And in this session, we'll have the chance to deep dive into two of these LDEs technologies, and very importantly, touching upon real cases and the applicability to client countries. And actually, if I'm not wrong, in the afternoon session, session 2 on energy storage technology updates, we will have the chance also to learn about another LDE solution, vanadium redox flow batteries. So now first, we will hear from a very mature and well-established technology, pumped storage hydropower, which currently accounts for nearly 90% of the storage capacity in grid-scale applications globally. Rebecca will walk us through the PHH role in clean energy transition, including the provision of ancillary services. And I really would love, Rebecca, to learn what future scenarios, are envisioned for PSH to keep such an important role as so far. And after that, Patricia will give us a very interesting overview of different technical solutions linked to thermal energy storage, and specifically using molten salts. Please pay attention. She will be highlighting the potential of steam turbine retrofit with thermal energy storage, meaning the possible substitution of carbon fuel fired boilers with a TEE's system. And secondly, she will give us insights as well about the opportunity of using molten salts, TES, for green hydrogen production. I think it would be very interesting, Patricia, to discuss later about what parameters and conditions, including, for example, technical and regulatory aspects, incentives, etc., can make the solution a business case. So that's my brief framework of the conversation, and then I very much welcome and give the floor first to Rebecca. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rafa. If there's any internet connectivity issues, please let me know, and I can stop my camera at any time. Can you confirm that you can see the screen, please? Yes. Oh, great. Thank you so much. Pumped storage hydropower is, as Rafa said, the world's largest form of installed flexibility for grid flexibility, and I'm here today to talk about that. So without further ado, the IHA is the International Hydropower Association. We represent the largest form of, sorry, I can't see my notes, my apologies. We are the global voice of sustainable hydropower, and our mission is to advance sustainable hydropower. And as part of that, we also include things like the San Jose Declaration, which was issued in 2021, which says that hydropower is a clean, green, modern, and affordable solution to climate change. And going forward, the only form of hydropower that is acceptable is sustainable. And we also issued no-go commitments to develop in World Heritage sites, as well as launching something known as the Hydropower Sustainability Standard. And this provides that all types of hydropower projects at any stage can be independently certified, and that projects should mitigate impacts to environment and communities. And actually, my apologies for not being there. Last week, we were in Bali, Indonesia, to launch the Bali declaration as part of our World Hydropower Congress here. And I'll touch on that, but the Hydropower Sustainability Alliance became independent, and it's a not-for-profit that's now completely separate from SHE, and it certifies these projects. So just a little bit of background on the context for hydropower. Last year in 2022, we saw 34 gigawatts of total new installed hydropower capacity globally. And of that, as Rafa said, kindly, pump storage hydropower represents 175 gigawatts of that global total. We saw 10 gigawatts of new additions, of which most were actually in China. They're world leading, but many other countries have signified an ambition because they're recognizing this need for long duration energy storage flexibility, including, I'll get to that later, but Australia and many other countries. So why pump storage hydropower? And what is pump storage hydropower? It's a mechanical form of batteries where you pump water up a hill when you have excess amounts of supply of electricity, just as you would power up a battery, a chemical ion battery, chemical ion or lithium ion battery, and then you release it when the grid needs it, when there is not enough supply to meet the electricity system demands. And in looking at IEA and many other statistics, we do still see that pump storage hydropower still forms the largest type of installed grid battery. But yeah, very simply, you have an upper reservoir and a lower reservoir, and they go between the two using a system of tunnels, and there's a power station in between. But the critical thing about this is they can be scaled up to immense sizes. So for example, in China, for example, they have a 3.2 gigawatt powered system, and in other cases, for example, in Europe, in Switzerland last year, there was a commission, the Nantes de Drance 900 megawatt project, which has 20,000 gigawatt hours of storage. It can power, I think, somewhere between, I think the figure is roughly 400,000 electric vehicles. It's quite immense. So that's getting into the size of these things. And as I'm sure Alex would have touched on yesterday, we have a system need for long duration and large capacities of energy storage, and I'll explain why in a minute. But many pump storage sites are positioned on river, meaning that they make use of existing reservoirs and existing cascade of rivers. These are known as open loop pump storage hydropower. But in addition to open loop, there's something fantastic known as closed loop pump storage hydropower. And the Australian National University, a few years ago, published a fantastic global atlas, which provides granular information on potential closed loop sites. And the beautiful thing about closed loop sites is that because they're not on a river, they can be more environmentally friendly. They'll have less of an environmental potential detrimental impact, which with hydropower, the main impact tends to be from the impounding and those initial methane emissions over time. But with this, because there might be an existing reservoir, there might be you're not damming that water, you're not preventing the silts from building up, etc. You don't have all those impacts. And so there's this fantastic opportunity there. But Professor Andrew Blakers, who published the study because he sees such an immense need for solar to be backed up by large capacity energy storage, he actually has published in addition to this. So on the website, you can also find blue reservoir stations information potential, as well as brownfield sites. So brownfield, bluefield, and this immense closed loop. And just to let others know, as part of this IHA, we have our own map of development of pump storage hydropower globally. It was edited and amended in June of 2022. So getting very quickly into the market advantages and why we might need large capacity, long duration energy storage from pump storage hydropower. So net zero scenarios, as many probably have touched on will require 80,000 terawatt hours of electricity for our 2050 targets. This is taken from the World Energy Outlook that was recently published, I want to say last week or the week before. And as part of that, we see so much, oh, apologies, that took a minute to load. We see so much wind and solar coming online. And as part of that, we're also seeing still a need for hydropower, and more specifically, probably it will be pump storage hydropower to provide that flexibility to make, because we're seeing as well that the amount of coal and fossil fuel generation is getting lower as we're seeing much more wind and solar. So that's the question: is how do we back this up, and how do we make sure that our grids in future are stable? And so pump storage hydropower has a critical role as part of this in the clean energy transition. We see it as supporting wind and solar growth, as I've said several times now, compensating for variability where it occurs, but also providing that large energy storage capacity to reduce any issues in the system, providing inertia and other ancillary services. So hydropower is known for its baseload, but the wonderful thing about any form of hydropower, including pump storage hydropower, is that it can provide primary, secondary, and tertiary system services, which are really critical as we're seeing more and more variability on the grid. And I'll kind of get to that in 1 minute. My slides are not catching up, so my apologies if you didn't see what I was referring to there. The other critical thing is that ability to provide black start capability. So one of the wonderful things about hydropower, including pump storage, is that it can bring the grid back by providing black start capabilities. See if it will go through. I've gone on to the next slide. Let's see if it's going through. There we go. So as part of this increasing need for flexibility, this is a case study from IEA Hydropower Market Report from 2021 that showcases how over 10 years we see one area in particular being affected by high amounts of solar penetration, and how the ramping rates of the pump storage units in proximity have had to go up and down significantly more as a result. And we're going to see this more and more. And it's not a bad thing. We love to see more and more solar, but it's a recognition that pump storage hydropower can provide this fast ramping rate and spinning services, as well as frequency controls. And it's going to become a critical thing that we're going to see more and more on grids. And actually, as part of the IEA recent studies as well, they found that in India, as more, see if the slides catch up. I've moved on to the next slide. Can you see reduce? Oh, there we go. So part of why fossil fuel generation had a sort of net impact for energy storage without us realizing it is it had a mechanical inertia, which is those spinning generators were able to resist drops in frequency when there are any power trips. And as part of this thermal power plant being phased out, it's meant that we're actually seeing less inertia on the system. And so this is something that pump storage hydropower, as a rotating form of inertia, but also just as something that can respond very quickly, can provide as primary response. And one of the fantastic projects that is providing case studies for this is in the EU. It's the XFX Hydro Demonstration Project, which is showcasing 6 projects, as well as there's an ancillary services matrix. And I really pressed for time, so I won't touch on it now, but they're looking at hydraulic short circuit, which is where you're able to pump and turbine at the same time. So meaning that you're able to provide electricity whilst also taking electricity. They're also looking at battery turbine hybrids for run of river, but this could also be applicable to pump storage, so that reduces wear and tear on the turbines. And they're also looking at variable speed, so the ability to vary the speed of the turbines as needed for grid services. So I can touch on that if people have further questions, or the website is XFlex Hydro. And so some additional innovation that we might consider. So for example, there have been existing schemes for quite some time, including in South Africa. I couldn't not talk about some South African case studies. For example, this was commissioned in 2016. And one of the things I thought that was really impressive about this case study is that they designated the surrounding area as a conservation area, and quite a bit went into conservation work. And that is something that pump storage hydropower and hydropower in general can do, is look at conservation and providing needed energy storage, as well as looking at the environmental impact. But in addition, there's other opportunities. So looking at mines. Mines are an interesting site. They're a form of brownfield. And there's some examples that have been in situ since the 1980s, including in the UK. They have a 1,700 megawatt pump storage site at a previous slate mine. But there's also being one developed in Australia, and there was talk of one being developed in Australia actually last year as part of ThyssenKrupp. So I don't know the status for that, so my apologies for not being able to give an update. But there's huge talks of where it is appropriate to do so, and I should definitely preface that, where it is appropriate to do so, because we don't want to be interfering too with the groundwater, and we don't want to have any environmental impact. You can make use of, and they are doing so in Australia with the Kidston Stage 2 mine. And construction started in 2021, and it's expected to be commissioned in 2021. And it will support a solar integrated project. And it's a sort of trial project, and lots of the technical documents, including the financial documents, are publicly available online if people would like to find out more about that. In addition to the ThyssenKrupp project in South Africa, there's a project in Estonia, which is being developed in a former underground coal mine, and I'm aware of a few other projects in the mix, including a few in Europe and North America. But there's ample opportunity, and as long as it's not having a negative impact, I think it's a really interesting opportunity. I'll kind of touch through this because I have a case study to touch on very, very quickly before I wrap up. But it's really important, as we're talking about this innovation, that governments support it. These are long-term projects. These are long-term infrastructure projects, and they require the support of government in the sense that they are backing it. And so we see some examples where governments have provided, if not financial support, in terms of other types of support, including in China, they have energy storage targets. They have specific pump storage hydropower tariffs. In India, I'll touch on that in one sec, but Nepal, they have concession on lease rental rates for hydropower. They're looking at pump storage hydropower in more detail, and I actually have a contact in there in case people are interested, who's working with some people there. There's direct subsidies into pre-feasibility and pre-investment projects for low-carbon projects, including, I want to say, pump storage as well. And cap and floor mechanisms within liberalized markets are considered really good. But at the end of the day, you need that long-term concession agreement. Long-term agreement between a buyer, and you need that in place. Sorry, it's all concessions, so my apologies. So it's that ability to make sure that you're having that procurement of energy storage payment, the payment. But a little bit on the India case study, which is the India pump storage guidelines in country. So India has been doing quite a few things to develop pump storage, as well as hydropower in general. They recognized a few years ago that hydropower above 25 megawatts was renewable, but they also have been on a journey in the past few years, including identifying the need for large-scale storage. They identified that they would need 18 to 25 gigawatts of pump storage, or 21 with batteries, or 21 gigawatts of on-river and 57 gigawatts of off-river to support all of their immense variable renewable energy. And working with stakeholders, they developed several national documents, including an energy storage obligation, market mechanisms, and they increased the techno-economic potential from 90 gigawatts to 106. And that doesn't mean all of that should be developed, but that means there's that potential there. And as part of this, in, I want to say, April of this year, they published the pump storage project guidelines in country, which includes allotment of project sites on a nomination basis, that they require timelines for construction to start after award for 2 years, that there are upcoming market reforms, that they are providing incentives in terms of taxes and duties, and supporting through concessional climate finance. So there's so much they're doing to support the development. And then because of this, they're seeing 52 gigawatts of roughly 40 projects under surveys and clearances. So it's a very exciting example of a government taking action to support its long duration energy storage needs. But just to end very quickly, last week we launched the Bali Statement on sustainable growth. And as part of this, it says water, wind, and sun together will power the sustainable growth of the future. This means that countries need to plan, we all need to plan for energy needs now, including energy storage, that we need to incentivize sustainable hydropower development through financial and market-based mechanisms where appropriate, and that's accelerating the development of renewables through transparent and efficient permitting and licensing processes. So that's a part of the planning for climate commission that IHA is part of, as well as incorporating the hydropower sustainability practices into government regulation and financial sector obligations. We want to make sure that any project being undertaken is sustainable. So thank you so much for the time, and I look forward to taking questions. I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I think, I have a quick question before we go to the next presentation, and then we keep the Q&A for the two speakers at the end. So you touch upon some policy changes, recommendations, maybe to encourage keep deployment of pump hydro storage. So do you see any? What are the expectations right now about keep growing? Deployment of pump hydro storage. Do you see any other challenges? What is the technical potential? To grow, and what other challenges that you see can be addressed?
So the technical potential is so immense. For example, that ANU study on the global off-river potential of closed-loop pump storage indicated there was 600,000 terawatt hours of potential. If we don't need all that to be developed, if we even looked at, say, 1% or 10%, this would be an immense benefit to communities to have that type of large capacity, long duration energy storage. So there is the technical potential, and especially when we consider existing reservoirs, when we consider brownfield sites where appropriate to do so, there is the technical potential. And getting into how feasible it is, where governments have greenlight the fact that they want to use this technology, it's happening very, very quickly. So, for example, I touched on the fact that Queensland in Australia, they had signified their interest in this, and they're currently in the pre-feasibility, or they're about to enter the feasibility study stage for 2 projects, of which one will be 5 gigawatts. It's going to be the largest when completed, and the other is 2 gigawatts. So there is immense potential. But speaking with colleagues in other parts of the world, including in Latin America, there tends to be a need to recognize these services in the electricity markets, for example, but also in de-risking where we can. So, for example, I'm working on a technical working group right now. It's the De-risking Pump Storage Hydropower Working Group, and we are looking at what the pump storage hydropower community can do to provide guidance for those who are just entering this stage, for example. So we're looking at what technical background they might need, what what documents people may not be aware of, and providing that sort of journey, and utilizing other existing materials, including those fantastic materials provided by the World Bank. So, and we are delighted to have been speaking to some World Bank colleagues about how we can work together to ensure that where it makes sense to do so, we can build this out. But on your question related to the market opportunities, there definitely and there are some countries doing this, including France, underwent a consultation earlier this year on what measures would best incentivize pumped storage hydropower development. And the Polish government actually created a law that was passed in June this year as a one-stop shop for pumped storage hydropower to minimize the disruptions in the permitting journey. So there really are some really fantastic case studies in governments saying, we know this is important to us and we're recognizing it. So Poland and France are some good examples there as well. I hope that answers your question, Rafa, yes, but I look forward to further questions as well.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, I'm sure there will be questions for you afterwards. So thank you so much, Rebecca. And let me give the floor to Patricia Santamaria, please.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good morning again, everybody, and thank you, of course, to the World Bank for the invitation to be part in this meeting. As Rafael said, my name is Patricia Santamaria, and I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at ERPAO. Today, I want to convince you why ERPAO is a key company in the energy sector and how ERPAO is working for the industry decarbonization. Okay, in the next 15-20 minutes, I would like to show you a brief presentation about first our company, second about our solutions and services. Third, all of us know that the industry and the grid has challenges in front of us and they are important to know. Fourth, our solution with molten salt thermal energy storage systems. And finally, I will provide you information about two real applications of our technology. Okay, our company. So ERPAO is a young but very experienced company specialized in engineering for thermal energy storage systems for commercial plants which are already in operation or future plans, and for innovation projects. We are located in Spain. Our headquarters is in Seville, and we have offices in Dubai and Houston. Our engineering team has big experience in commercial projects around the world, which has been in operations for 15 years, more or less. So we want and we can take this experience to innovate, to optimize, to collaborate, to improve all the aspects related to the energy storage. And we believe that it's one of the main concepts making possible a sustainable energy production. Our solutions. So ERPAO provides continuous product development. As I told before, it is the thermal energy storage concept for industrial applications and for any other applications. We provide also technical consultancy for current and future power plants related to all aspects, from the design or the definition of the specification until the failure analysis or all the aspects made in the power plant. So the company also offers performance assessment and improvement of all of these activities. And we can give support during commissioning and operation and maintenance activities. Okay, in ERPAO, we firmly believe in the innovation. So in this area, we are involved currently in two important innovations projects, European innovation projects, and we are waiting for the resolution of other two proposals. In all of them, our contribution is always related to the improvement and further development of thermal energy storage systems. So we are working, of course, in new project applications, and the same for the intellectual property. We are focused on patenting our innovation and our technology. Here you can see the portfolio of our customers. So from the start of our company in 2019 until today, so we are really involved in activities with big companies from the energy sector. You can see here Total Energies or Shell or Siemens Energy, and we are working as well with EPC contractors like Cox Abengoa or TSK, and consultancies, companies like RINA, and of course we collaborate with the Workman Group for project financing. Okay, we are here because industry had challenges and grid has challenges. So we know that the industry has a huge demand of thermal power because most of the industry are based on 24/7 processes. These processes must be stable without any production stop or any energy failure incident. So the constant thermal energy demand make them depend on constant energy sources like coal or gas. So we can see here the graphic, if you can see the importance of the coal in this industrial heat, which is much higher in South Africa. So it is difficult including here renewables as the main energy resources. But we know and we have the mission and we have the responsibility of reducing carbon emissions in the industry. So we believe that the only way of supplying energy for the industry from renewables and sources is the implementation of thermal energy storage systems. Only in this way we will be able to provide 24/7 energy production. The same for the stability of the electric grid. It's known that the production of renewable energy with a storage system can be accommodated to the demand of the grid and to the demand of the electricity needs. So we know and we believe that implementing thermal energy storage, the electricity will not be waste, but the storage when the renewable has excess, and then can be supplied in an optimal way with an energy management strategy well done when the renewables production stops. Why thermal energy storage with molten salt? So, as I told you before, the thermal energy storage comes from power plants, from TSP plants. So currently, there are around 25 commercial TSP plants operating in the world with molten salt storage systems. And nowadays, the performance of these plants is the same than at the beginning of the commissioning. So we demonstrate that this system works and that the thermal energy storage system is a reliable technology. So from these 25 plants, our POW team has been involved in around 20 of them. So we have been dedicated the last 15 years to this technology. So, and we want to take this experience for further development in this energy project. Okay, as I told you, so the origin of the test is the only two types of CSP plants. One is the parabolic trough plant. So, one moment. I don't know if you can see my pointer. Okay, so in this technology, the sound radiation is absorbed into linear receiver, heating up a heat thermal fluid inside them, normally oil. This oil goes by 400 degrees to the hot tank, and during the discharge phase, this temperature goes from 400 degrees to 219. So this temperature gap is our energy storage in the molten salt. The other technology is the central tower technology. In this case, the radiation is reflected thanks to the mirrors of the heliostat to the central receiver placed in the top of the tower. In this technology, the temperature is higher until 565 degrees, and during the discharge goes to 290. And okay, we talk about the origin, but the molten salt itself as material has a lot of advantages as well. So one of the good things of the molten salts is that they don't degrade. I'm speaking here again about plants in operation for 15 years, and the performance and results of these thermal batteries are the same than at the beginning. So another challenge in this area is the production of the batteries and the material for them. For example, lithium batteries production is a difficult production, and lithium is a limited resource. But molten salt is very common and natural results. And of course, another key point is the competitive results of this technology. We have numbers confirming that it can provide above 100 megawatts thermal hours. So, and only, okay, I put here only to let you know a real example of the potential of this system. So a commercial plant has up to now, or has up to 6,500 megawatts thermal hours of storage, producing around 2-3 gigawatts of electrical energy a day. And here, some important advantages. So our system is the red oval behind. Here, I take my pointer again. So here, and we have the technology for storage to high temperature, to 565 degrees, and we have, as told before, a real big storage capacity and a very high round-trip efficiency, more than 90%. And now, as I want to explain or to show you two real applications of our technology. The first one is the retrofit of steam turbine with thermal energy storage. So this consists of the substitution of carbon fuel boilers with test system. We have some parameters that combine are making possible to take all components of these plants, eliminating the coal boiler and combining them with a test system and green energy. So the concept of the solution shown here combines proven system, existing coal-fired components without the coal boilers, with double tank of test and wind and PV solar power. So the concept is turning the coal-fired plants into thermal batteries using the rest of the existing facilities. So we can heat the cells through the heater, taking the electricity from green energy, and then this heat is going through the steam turbine and the generator to the grid. This application is optimal to be implemented in countries with a large number of coal plants, and of course with an important strategy of decarbonization. Here, I take two examples. One of them is Chile. This country has currently 28 coal plants in operation, which means the 90 or more than the 90%
Patricia, we are losing you. You're breaking up.
Carbon neutral country. Sorry?
We lost you for the last 20 seconds. If you can.
Okay.
You were starting with the Chile description.
Yes. Okay, Chile. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So Chile, as you can see here, Chile is a country with currently 28 coal plants in operation, and it means the 91% of CO2 emissions in the country. So this country has a big commitment on a big challenging strategy for reducing it. Here you can see important numbers, but the most important one I will say is that Chile wants to be or will become a carbon neutral country by 2050. Another country is South Africa, which has 19 coal plants producing the 80% of the energy of the country, has an important first goal of increasing the renewable energy production by 30% by 2030. Okay, I show here a real project proposal regarding this retrofit of coal plants made for Siemens Energy. So they have a lot of knowledge of power blocks and electric heat, but not for molten salt. And we give and we add here a big value making the design and specification of the new plant configuration. So we calculate that the plant could be able to store 14 hours of energy with a test capacity of 7,500 megawatt watt-hour. So the most important results of this is this data about the reduction of CO2 emissions. It can be until or more than 3.7 megatons per year. The second real application is production of green hydrogen. We have been working in feasibility studies, hybridizing different power technologies to have 24/7 electricity production to run an electrolyzer for the 24/7 green hydrogen production. We can produce electricity and steam to feed the electrolyzer, and this solution is optimal to be applied in countries with important strategies program of green hydrogen production, and of course, important programs of reducing the price of the energy production, having green energy sources. Again, Chile is a good example for that. The goal is increase not only the production, but as well the export of this hydrogen. And they want to be the world leader in production and export of hydrogen in 2040. And another example again, South Africa. South Africa will produce, a big number, will produce 500,000 tons per year by the increasing of electrolysis capacities by 2040 until 25 gigawatts. Here I show you again a real work of this application made for ACE, and it was a hybridization of TSP plant with PV, and we have developed as well some simulations in order to optimize the operation of the plant to achieve the 27th energy production during the hours in a day and during the months a year. And again, a very important data here is the reduction of CO2 emissions, being able to be more than 740 kilotons per year. So, as conclusion, finally, I want to make you remember that with thermal energy storage system, the industrial decarbonization is possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Again, just a quick question from me. So those examples that you showed in for Chile and 5.1, I mean, and the green hydrogen in California. Just for clarification, are these under operation or are going to be under operation in the short term, or is it a design phase, or I mean?
Yes, we are currently. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. No? We are currently in design phase, and what we have done until now is the feasibility analysis and the configuration of the plants, but they are not in operation now.
Okay. No, thank you so much. So I think we have time for open the floor for both speakers and questions from the audience, please, for Rebecca and Patricia.
Thanks. Right, I'm Etienne from Renew-E. My question is more related to the World Bank. You've developed this great paper on understanding the energy storage. Now, having looked through the document, there's almost no mention of hydro and pump storage. It's not really, not even in the index. Now, yeah, the paper is very good, and no, thank you for that. But my concern is the World Bank is not giving enough attention to pump storage. Now, we need pump storage and batteries. Each have their advantages and disadvantage. But these things that pump storage can do that batteries cannot do, such as the quantum of storage that it can store. It's good for interseasonal storage, and a whole host of other issues. It's got its challenges on the environmental side, but there needs to be both. Now, have thought that the private sector can fund batteries because typically it's a short project cycle. You can order a battery today, you have it installed in 2 years' time, and you get your returns shortly afterwards. But for pump storage, you're looking at a 10-year planning horizon. And that's the kind of funding we need to develop those projects. Because if we don't have that long-term funding, which commercial banks typically don't give, those projects won't happen. So my personal plea is, shouldn't the World Bank assist us with pump storage? And maybe not just in South Africa, but all over the world. Thanks.
Thank you. To reply to this question, I have not been involved in pump hydro storage, but I think some colleagues here from the bank, I would kindly ask Fred.
Yes, thanks. Well, let me stand up. No, I don't think that that we have done some pump storage projects and promoted them. The fact that large hydro and pump hydro were projects that were seen environmentally very difficult to develop. Basically, with the current status of the acceleration of climate of the climate change impact, it's something that is coming back to say, well, let's reconsider in a case-by-case basis. So there is some thinking around this. Definitely on pump storage, we have some experts, some of them based in South Africa, who are working on this with different client countries. Having said that, because of the, as you said, the lead time that is long, and because of the big capital investment that is needed, definitely there is some work to accompany the project from the start, all the studies, and do the right thing. You're right to say that there is complementarity. I was listening to the panelists, and maybe they can give their view too, but the idea, it's not either or. The modularity of the batteries, and with the large energy that the pump storage can have, there is definitely complementarity, and in some cases both will be needed. So definitely I think there is some work to do. World Bank is supporting this. After that, not in all the countries, but in most of the countries that request it. Yes.
Thank you, Fred. I think,
just quickly, just to respond, as much as we want to take credit for this lovely handbook, it's not from the World Bank, it's from Power Africa. So we're our colleagues from Power Africa over there, and John is over there. Joe is over there. So you can talk to them afterwards. It's a good book. It is, but we're getting there. We can't cover everything.
Question for the panelists, so I can respond to him and someone do you mind passing that? So, thanks for that attribution. No, the handbook actually has a use case on pumped hydro specifically. It's listed under seasonal shifting. So there's no real other technology that it could be. Yeah, sure. But also, if you look throughout the book, it is relatively technology agnostic in that it does not mention batteries. It mentions energy storage systems, and we use the acronym ESS throughout the book. So that was the intention there, because if we did peg the book to assumptions around cost or technical performance of a specific technology, that could become out of date, and then that's on your shelf 1 year later and no value. So thanks for pointing that out, but it does try and cover the gamut. But questions for the panelists. I actually have one for both. So for IHA, so kind of what Fred was mentioning, I think there's pretty common perception that for conventional hydro, especially larger scale, the ESG and specifically the environmental concerns are going to be very cumbersome and pose challenges in terms of timeline for overall development. And that's an assumption that bleeds over to pumped hydro, whether relevant or not, and regardless of the scale and application of geography or brownfield and things like that. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the sustainable hydro declaration that you mentioned earlier, and how hopefully that can kind of address some of those, because ultimately there does need to be complementarity and more than just any one technology to solve some of the challenges that are out there. So maybe that's a question around messaging and perception. And then for our panelist that is speaking to our pal, similar thing. There was a perception for many years. So I'm from the US and we have in California thermal storage, Nevada as well. And the perception was that thermal storage ultimately is just storage. There still needs to be power generation to heat that. And the perception was that great concentrated solar or paired with PV was wonderful, but there was still a necessity for priming these systems. Oftentimes, an hour or two before the sun comes up. Oftentimes that was done with natural gas. And I was wondering how the systems are evolving to mitigate that, to move away from that, or if that's still going to be a requirement for the foreseeable future. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the question, and I'm really interested by that Power Africa booklet. So if it's available online, please do send me a link. I'll just quickly chime in on the ESG considerations. That's something that the hydropower industry has had to be aware of for quite some time. Many may be aware of around 2000, there was a seminal report on dams that came out, and it was a recognition by industry that we needed to do better. And as such, over the past 23 years, the hydropower industry has been making great strides to ensure that we are able to assess and to do better as an industry. And we actually are one of the few industries that have a independent certification scheme. This scheme is completely separate from IHA. We did help with industry to set it up, but it's a recognition that it needs to be done both environment but also social, and bringing those governance elements. And it actually brings in the 12 development aspects a part of any project, and they're independently assessed. That is not part of industry who does it. It's someone who is independently goes out to a site, interviews all stakeholders involved, reviews documents. It's quite an onerous procedure. It's not something that can be done easily, but we did recognize that it needed to be not just environment, but social and governance related as well. So that is something that industry has been working on. And there were earlier iterations of the standard, including the protocol and the accreditation, but it was a recognition that it would needed to come together into what is now the standard. And that was launched formally in November 2021. And there's been a number of schemes, including Ituango, including the first actually scheme was certified in Tajikistan, and quite a few others that are undergoing that process. And it's a core part, and the standard has been recognized as part of RE100. It's been recognized as part of ISO and other independent accreditation as part of the hydropower requirements. So it can and should be applied to pump storage as well. And I think I've answered. I was just talking about the San Jose Declaration. So that was launched in 2021. So we have the standard as the roots of the tree for anything that is certifiably renewable. And then from there, we have things like the San Jose Declaration, which ensures that hydropower, going forward, hydropower is done in a sustainable way, and we want to make no-go commitments. And from that, we've just launched the Bali Statement, which is a continuation and looking at how we can deliver on
Okay.
Yeah, thank you much, Rebecca. So, Patricia, if you can, what's your comments?
Yes.
On the question?
Thank you for the question. So at the end of the day, it's what we are always talking to our customers. So one project depends of a lot of aspects and parameters. So a localization, prices, place where these projects will be installed. But that is the goal. The goal is to use the thermal storage systems who storage the excess of the renewables. So we have made simulations producing during the day energy, for example. So I show you one of the, I will share again. I show you one of the slides. Mona? Where we made simulations taking.
See now the last one.
Exactly here. So we have here combined PV and DSP. So during these hours, during the day and during these months, we can use the PV directly to produce the energy for the electrolyzer. But the CSP is producing as well energy which has been stored and not used during these hours, but used during the hours when they cannot produce energy because of no sun, and can be used during the rest of the time. So that is the goal. The goal is exactly the optimization of the storage to manage the energy supply. And of course, it's always the question there. So the grid has to be as backup, but only in case of outfalls. I don't know if I answered the question.
Does this answer your question? Thank you very much. We have more questions over here.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I have a question for Patricia regarding basically the safety aspect of hydrogen, right? It's been historically an unstable sort of gas to work with. What is the confidence of the entire industry in terms of safety when it comes to hydrogen?
Okay, so in this case, we provide solutions for the storage of the molten salt. We don't store hydrogen. So we provide the energy for the electrolyzer, and the electrolyzer produce the hydrogen which will be used or export. But they are two different systems and two different technologies. So we provide the storage system to provide the energy for the electrolyzer.
Yeah, just if I may chime in, I mean, there has been this maybe hydrogen coming from renewable sources, but hydrogen industry has been going on for many decades, so the safety aspects are very well covered in handling of hydrogen storage and transportation, shouldn't be an issue.
Exactly, but we don't storage the hydrogen. We storage only the molten salt.
Right. Yep.
In the tanks. Okay.
Any more questions? I think, I hope we have time to.
Yes, it works. No, quick question for the panelist on the fact that the technologies on storage that you promote are water sensitive, meaning that with acceleration of climate effect and the fact that use of water now is let's say more intensive for other uses than electricity, is the fact that this water can become scarce. Is it something that is affecting your technology in the positive or negative aspect? For instance, pump hydro, I imagine that in some countries it's good to have a reservoir. For other uses, that's the electricity, and then you can have a dual use. But on the other side, there is some side effects of it. So I was wondering, in the long term, how do you see the impact, the increasing impact of the water scarcity on your business?
Happy to take the question. Thank you so much for it. So climate resilience is an incredibly important part of all of our lives going forward. And as part of this, I was very interested in a World Bank report that actually came out earlier this year on the importance of water storage. It was a seminal report, and actually it was one of my hidden slides that I didn't end up using, on the fact that we're not only facing an electricity, an adaptation, and a mitigation need, but also an adaptation need, and the fact that we're lacking severe amounts of water storage that we need. And from the international reports that we've seen on climate change over the past few years, we've seen that hydrology will shift. And in some regions, we're already seeing this take place, where we're seeing more droughts or we're seeing more water. And as part of this, industry has put together something, I want to say it was with the World Bank. If it was not, it was with one of the other fantastic collaborators within the multilateral development bank community, the Hydropower Climate Resilience Guide. And we would encourage all operators to make use of this. And as part of this, it includes a recommendation to assess the river basin for climate resilience issues, where we've seen hydropower operators impacted both from drought. The next year, they have in such an increased amount. So this is what's happening with climate change. In some years, we're seeing incredible droughts, and then the following water season, you have the water table completely replenished. And so that's what climate change is doing. It's changing what's happening with our hydrology. And unfortunately, it does have a detrimental impact. And where we can provide adaptation and resilience, it would be fantastic to make use of this. So for example, to prevent flooding for hydropower that's on river, so on river pump storage hydropower, but also off river pump storage hydropower doesn't necessarily need to make use of existing river assets. So for example, it can make use of groundwater. And that's actually, I had that question when speaking to technical experts on how you can develop pump storage hydropower in mines. And they said, actually, in mines, water is the issue. And so it's not an issue of not having water. They have water already available. And so that is the benefit we do see of off-river pump storage hydropower. But if any persons are interested in pump storage hydropower and hydropower in general and are starting that journey, I would encourage that free technical guidance document, the Hydropower Climate Resilience Guide. My colleague Debbie Gray underwent a workshop to assess if it's still technically, she did a technical workshop on it at our Congress last week. And if any persons are interested in finding out more, I'd be happy to put them in touch with Debbie about that. I hope that answered the question, and thanks again to the World Bank for that fantastic water storage report.
Thank you so much. Patricia, I don't see any more, but Andres Barros from your team had, I think he wanted to have his hand up, and I don't know if he wants any more to speak.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make a clarification on the storage of the hydrogen. As Patricia said, our technology is not intended to store hydrogen, but to accommodate to the demand of hydrogen. So a practice example, if an industry had a non-stable demand of hydrogen, instead of storing hydrogen that we all know what are the challenges of storing this product, instead of storing hydrogen, we store the energy to produce it. So we can accommodate the electric load of the electrolyzers to follow the industry demand. So we change the challenges of storing hydrogen for storing the energy to generate the hydrogen itself.
Thank you, Andres.
This was just clarification.
Yes, thank you for this additional clarification. I think like having a lot of questions, that's great. I think we have a few more minutes, right? So do you need a mic? Okay, great.
Thank you. So yeah, just taking it back to pump storage. I spent about 10 years in pump storage, actually on the floor. So I just want to contribute to the conversation there. The thing is with pump storage, it's quite difficult to build pump storage. The geological requirements are very stringent, to say the least. And it was mentioned already that water scarcity, especially in our country and around the world, I imagine, is always going to be a bit of an issue. You can't get away from the fact that pump storage is amazing. It does provide black start, especially for South Africa. We have 2 power stations, 2 pump storage schemes, specifically contributing to the possibility of assisting in black start. But even at those power stations, you're not operating without battery technology as well. Those power stations itself also use battery technology. Granted, the technology is a bit older, but they will be transitioning to newer technologies. But a lot of that technology is based on battery systems as well. And over and above that, they even do use diesel generators when the batteries are depleted. So maybe it won't be a one or the other situation, but it'll be a combined effort. So you're not going to get away from one or the other. But yeah, we have had conversations with the relevant entities. I have annoyed Dr. Alma here about the repurposing of old mines for pump storage, and that in itself presents an entirely different challenge as well. He did mention recently that they do close a few mines a year, and if we could use those mines as a pump storage solution, but also that it presents an unprecedented challenge. I mean, it's not impossible. It's not a social issue. It's more of a technological issue and a safety issue. The technology is there, but to actually do it, it's going to be quite difficult and quite capital intensive. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So another question over there. Do we have 2 mics? No, I don't think so. Let's push up.
How about now?
Yeah.
Good. It's Ian Ellington from Fowler Institution in the UK. It's a similar question to both panelists, really. For a long time, we've been using pumped hydro storage as really the cost benchmark to try to get to with battery and other energy storage technologies. And what I'm not sure is where we're at, because the pressures on pumped hydro have been increases in cost because of environmental constraints, finding the right locations, whereas batteries have been really rapidly decreasing in cost. And I wasn't sure what the current comparison was and whether the panelists knew. Similarly with concentrated solar as opposed to PV. PV rapidly dropping in cost. Concentrated solar still at a relatively early stage, I suppose, in terms of deployment. But I wondered if you looked at the economics of 24/7 power from thermal storage with concentrated solar versus a PV and a lithium-ion system, whether they're about the same now or which one is chasing to catch up.
Thank you. I love yeah. There's a reaction, but I don't see. Are there any other questions? Or I think we are already ready for lunch. So thank you so much for the speakers. Very interesting presentations, and I enjoyed a very lively discussion afterwards. So I hope you did as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to the audience and to you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the World Bank for having us.
Have a good rest of your day. See you.
Rebecca, do you want to say something?
I was going to say, I'm happy to take that quick question. It was on the economics. They probably won't eat. Lovely to meet you, Patricia.
Okay, we can connect offline. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to the World Bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.